I think there's a problem. I think that, I don't know, between Tiffany and me, there's kind of a rift forming, kind of a space between us. You know, when we like being together a lot, and when, we go camping all the time, and we stay, doing bus life, and we're at these cool places sometimes for 10 days. But God, the 4 hours that we're apart while we drive to these spots, I think it's tearing us apart. And I think if we had just made the decision to tow the car and not drive separately, I think it would have saved our marriage. You just couldn't hold it together.
So we get this question more than any other question or comment or concern on our YouTube, Instagram, etc. And it's a valid question.
Well, we didn't say what the question is.
I was about to. And the question is, why do we drive separately rather than tow?
Why don't we tow our car? There are a lot of reasons, and it's a completely valid question. Most people genuinely want to know, just are curious. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're looking to do the same thing, and they're weighing options. Totally cool, and we're happy to answer that every time. Some people, though, it's extremely aggravating to them, or it bothers them that we don't drive separately.
That we do drive separately.
Or that we do drive separately. And the truth is that for every hour we spend apart while driving, we spend days inches away. So before we even started working on the Skoolie and started to actually build the bus out, we knew that we wanted a little excursion vehicle.
So initially we did want to tow a vehicle, and your options are limited when you want to flat tow and you don't want to deal with a dolly.
And by flat tow we mean tow a vehicle with all four wheels on the ground. There are not a ton of vehicles that can do that. If you try to flat tow without an extra dolly or something, it can really mess up the drivetrain of that vehicle. Mm-hmm. So there were some limitations just to start off with. Yeah,
so we kind of played musical cars for a little bit. We bought a Jeep. I always wanted a Jeep Wrangler, but we got it, and I wasn't feeling it. There wasn't much room for the dogs. Yeah. It was loud.
It was an older Wrangler.
It didn't feel safe, and the fuel economy was horrible.
Yeah, that wasn't awesome. So we got rid of that. We traded it in, and we got a Chevy Colorado, which is also capable of flat towing, but we weren't really in love with that one either, and it added a lot of additional length to the bus, and we were like, this isn't really working out either.
And again, not a whole lot of room for the dogs.
Yeah, it was like an extended cab. So we started looking around, what are we gonna do? Let's keep looking for vehicles, and then we found this 2015 Subaru that had a really good price on it. It had some hail damage from a hailstorm in Colorado. We didn't care about that, so they took a good bit off of the price. And the only issue with the Subaru was that it can't be flat towed. Again, like we were saying, not a lot of vehicles can be flat towed, and the Subaru is one of them that can't, even though it has all-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm. But it did have amazing fuel economy.
Good fuel
economy. Has a backup camera. I've never had one of those.
Yeah, newest vehicle we've ever had.
Lots of room for the dogs. Great, crash test rating.
Test is super safe vehicle. It had a high clearance so that we can actually, get through some trails. We're not doing heavy duty rock crawling. We just need to be able to feel comfortable driving through sand, dirt, going through some water or whatever. And the Subaru does it really well. And we've already taken it on a couple trails, and it really holds its own, which is great. But so it checked off all of those boxes. Plenty of room for the dogs in the back. And but again, the only thing that we couldn't use it for is we couldn't tow with it.
So then our option was either to tow on a dolly, which adds, another level of something to deal with, or to drive separately. And as you know, we chose to drive separately, and we're gonna try to tell you why that works well for us, at least for now.
Yeah. All right. So what we thought we'd do is Tiffany and I are going to talk separately about some of the reasons why we're driving separately, why we think it's a good idea, and why we think it works really well for us.
This was my idea. It was my idea to drive separately. We thought about flat towing, we thought about towing on a dolly, we thought about not having an extra vehicle, but I had this idea because, I don't know, to start, I kind of thought it would be a little more of an adventure for me if I did some driving, because I used to not drive much at all, and it's been, I don't know, it's been a different experience for me. And of course it would be great to just to sit as a passenger and take in all the views, but you know, we stop often, and I can radio Zach when I'm like, can we take a picture coming up? This is really beautiful.
Oh my gosh, hey, did you see this mountain up here? This is gorgeous.
And yeah, it's been totally fine.
So maybe the biggest reason why we drive separately is safety.
Really, the biggest reason is safety.
School buses are built to be really safe vehicles. They're steel all the way around. They're designed to carry children, and so they're also meant to roll over if they have to and support the weight on the roof. And we also installed a seat belt in the bus so that Tiffany could ride in here and have a seat belt. But the way we have it, the seat belt is sort of meant to allow the person to sit this way. And so if we were driving down the road and ran into, had an accident, she'd be flung that way. And while that's better than not having a seatbelt at all, it's also not the safest way to, be, restrained. And the seatbelt that we installed in here is a waist strap. It's not like a shoulder strap. Well, she has a shoulder strap seatbelt in the Subaru.
I feel like the dogs are safer in here. I actually buckle Frankie into a harness, so that in the event of an impact, she doesn't fly. It's like a nice chest harness. So that's safer for her. Tuco's in a confined space. That's safer for him. I'm safer in here. The dogs are safer in here, and everybody's more chill.
The second reason why we really like driving separately is honestly for comfort. For Tiffany.
I get car sick.
And for the dogs.
I have ridden in the bus a few times on short trips.
Since we have a front engine flat nose school bus, the engine is literally right next to the driver's seat. I've got my foot on it right now. It's a loud diesel engine.
It's loud. And the vibration is crazy. The engine's right there. The engines would be between me and Zach. So it's not like we can really have a good conversation anyway. It's bumpy. It's a little jarring.
Is the jolting and the shaking of the bus as it's going down a bumpy highway. I'm in here. I can see where the bumps are coming from. I know when to expect them. And it still rattles me a little bit occasionally if we're going down a really bumpy road at speed. And it would be really, like, our dogs are already high anxiety, and so that jolting would really sort of freak them out.
The dogs are really able to relax in here. I look at them in my rearview mirror, and they'll poke up their heads occasionally if I slow down or come to a stop. But once I get going on the interstate, they just sleep, and I don't think there's any way that would be their experience in the bus. Between the vibrations, the loudness, the potential of things falling.
They also get air conditioning, and they get heat while we're en route. They're so much more comfortable than they would be in here by a long shot.
By driving behind the bus, I'm actually able to help sometimes instead of, just sitting there.
Driving separately also makes it easier for me to drive the bus overall.
If people aren't letting Zach over...
It's a huge vehicle. Not sure why people don't see the blinker, which is working.
Every time we get going, I radio him and let him know that his blinkers are working.
People just don't let me over. Maybe they just don't want to get behind the bus, which I can understand, but I still need to get over. And what Tiffany is able to do, she's able to merge first and then box people out and allow me to get over. So that's been a really nice benefit.
Like at the spot we're at now, we're at a BLM spot with a... kind of rough-looking dirt road in. And so I had Zach stop in the parking lot that's here, and I went ahead to see if there were any cool, spots that we could get into with the bus. And instead of having to drive up a road and not be sure if you can turn around, that's kind of that's kind of nerve-wracking to me. But in this little car, I can get up there and check it out, and I found a really cool campsite that we probably wouldn't have ventured to go check out if we didn't have the extra vehicle. So easy to, he stops and I go ahead. It's not a stop and unhitch and then drive ahead. I like that aspect of it too, and that it's fun for me that I get to go like scout out the campsites and pick a cool spot.
And the Subaru is great because it has some off-road capability while still being pretty comfortable inside. So we've actually ridden in some mud trails, we've gone through snow, we've gone through sand, and it has handled it spectacularly. So we really have enjoyed using the Subaru for that reason, just by itself. We got a 33-foot school bus because we thought that was a perfect without being too long. And we still feel like that's the case. But if we added, another 8 feet behind it, that's another, our 33-foot school bus becomes a 41-foot school bus or a 41-foot vehicle. And a lot of people get away with driving longer vehicles even than that, but we didn't want to if we didn't have to. So we're saving on that extra length, and it's been good. Also, by not towing a vehicle, we can actually back the bus up. A lot of people just elect not to use reverse if they're towing a vehicle, which is not... To me, that doesn't sound great because I love being able to throw the bus in reverse and, maneuver around certain places. I've been able to turn around in some pretty tight spots because I've been able to throw it in reverse. And if I needed to, while the vehicle behind me was attached, we'd have to unhitch, maneuver out, rehitch, and it just becomes a whole thing.
So one of the best reasons I think to tow instead of drive separately is because you probably save money on gas. I say probably because I'm not really sure about that.
We get 9 miles a gallon in the bus, and if we were to hitch another vehicle on the back, that would drop further. The bus tops out at 60 miles an hour, and the Subaru gets pretty good gas mileage just going down the highway at highway speeds. So 60 miles an hour cruising for the Subaru, it gets great gas mileage.
And plus then there's the upfront costs of the tow package and the tow dolly.
And the bus could totally do it. Like, we have a DT466 and an Allison MT643 transmission. They're totally capable of towing a vehicle. But making them not have to work additionally hard and making its life a little easier is something that I actually really appreciate.
It would probably, in the long run, be cheaper to tow. There's too many good reasons to drive separately versus the potential loss in fuel for me. Honestly, I kind of enjoy my alone time in the car. I imagine Zach will agree.
It's nice to have some alone time. A lot of people that respond sort of negatively to our decision to drive separately, they say, well, where's the joy in travel? Why can't you, without having your partner right next to you to experience things together as you're driving, what's the point? I find that argument ridiculous because it doesn't take into account all of the time that we're not driving. The time spent actually driving is so small compared to the time that we're actually stationary and camping. For every hour we spend driving apart, we spend days arm's length from each other. And so, honestly, it's nice to have a little bit of alone time. That's about the only time where we do get to be alone. I get to listen to podcasts that Tiffany might not be interested in.
I could listen to some, song Zach hates or something and just blast it.
Of all of the things that people could have strong opinions about in the bus, whether it's a composting toilet, whether it's this lifestyle overall, whether it's the kind of bus it is, or that it's a school bus in general, the thing that people seem to be the most up in arms over is the fact that we drive separately. I may not see her in my peripheral vision as I'm driving, but that's about the only thing that we're missing. And we'll get there once we get to where we're going. We'll be together again. And I mean, again, it's just I think there's just a large misunderstanding of how much time is spent apart versus together and in such close quarters. It is a non-issue. It solves so many problems for us and has made, honestly, this whole process, I think, a lot easier. So it's been really great.
All right,
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for watching.
Really appreciate it. Hope this video was useful. If you are thinking about towing or driving separately, either way, we're sure you'd make the right call.
Feel free to tell us why driving separately is dumb.
Yeah, definitely tell us how stupid we are.
How we're not a family.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Anyway.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Like, we live in a tiny house.
Like, too close, really.
Yeah. Like, look at this. This is we have no personal space. So, yeah, that was annoying. So, you think we could talk like this? I mean, this is actually as quiet as it gets.
What?